Okay, my people, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we're going to be looking into practical examples of the impact and influence of enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Right? In our last class, we discussed the case studies. Right? We looked at two very important case studies: the LiveWire Pharmaceuticals and the Zenith Tech Solutions. Right? And we saw how enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets were able to influence the way projects were managed in these two companies. Okay, so in today's class, we're going to be looking at practical examples, as in real life examples, all right, where these things have taken place. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so example one, we'll be looking at the economic factors, all right, how economic trends impacted resource allocation and project budgeting. All right, so this has to do with the influence of enterprise environmental factors. All right, of course, you know, one of those factors are economic factors. And you know that economic factors can actually have a very huge influence on the resource allocation, especially when it comes to project budgeting. All right, and a very practical example of this was seen by the response of governments all around the world. Okay, we actually saw this in the response of governments all around the world, you know, during the 2008 global financial crisis. All right, we saw how those governments began to react, okay, and they began to cut costs, all right, so as to reduce public spending. Okay, so let me just go to a note I did. I've already done the research of this actually, so let me just show it to you. All right, so the governments actually during that 2008 global financial crisis, they began to implement austerity measures. All right, and the intent of that was to actually reduce public spending and balance their budgets. All right, this actually brought about cutting of funding for public services and programs, and this actually had a direct impact on resource allocation and project budgeting within government organizations. All right, so it was a very important factor to actually look at, and it really itemizes and underscores the impact that economic factors can actually have on our projects. So those organizations within the governments all around the world in 2008 during that financial crisis were actually impacted, all right, by this austerity measure, okay, by the government. But then there's a particular company that actually took a different approach. All right, so let's actually take a look at that company. All right, they actually successfully navigated the economic downturn and continue to invest in projects. The name of that company is Kellogg's. All right, Kellogg's is a fast food company, right, based in the United States of America. During the Great Depression, while many companies were instituting across the board cuts to lower their overhead, Kellogg's took the opposite approach. All right, and then what it actually did was to double its advertising budgets. They started to pump money into advertising and reinvested in their workforce shortly after the market crashed in 1929. Okay, so by 1933, Kellogg had increased its profit by a whopping 30% and distinguished itself as the country's leading breakfast company. Okay, so you can see that. So Kellogg's succeeded by going heavy into radio advertising, launching ads that featured a very, very famous ad, and they called it Snap, Crackle, Pop. Alright, it was a slogan that was very popular then in the United States in around 1932. So this particular campaign helped catapult their Rice Krispies. Alright, they had this Rice Krispies products. It catapulted it into a breakfast staple and positioned it to become the top, alright, to actually get to the top position, which it still holds to this day. When you come to Rice Krispies, Kellogg's is number one in the United States. The company also innovated in its workforce, alright. In order to create more jobs, the cereal manufacturer shifted to a 6-hour workday, giving its workers a 12.5% raise in hourly wages while reducing working hours by 25%. Can you imagine? It actually gave them a raise even during that period of depression. It gave them a raise, 12.5%, and then even reduced their working hours. Are you getting it now? So 85% of the workers liked the 30-hour work week schedule better and even worked more productively, reaching 40-hour work levels within 2 years. This was an amazing response or approach that Kellogg's actually took, even while other companies would just take that opportunity to reduce their spending. So this shows a different and even more strategic approach than what the governments all around the world did during the 2008 financial crisis. Alright, so we can see from this example that Kellogg's is a company that successfully navigated an economic downturn and continue to invest in new projects. Alright, so by taking a bold approach and investing in advertising and its workforce, Kellogg was able to thrive during a difficult economic period. Okay, so that's a very, very good example of the impact of enterprise environmental factors, okay, on an organization. All right, so it's very important to take note of this, especially in the projects that you're running. You should be able to know how the economic factors can actually impact the way you run your project. All right, so as we saw in that example, Kellogg successfully navigated the Great Depression by investing in new projects, doubling its advertising budget, and by 1933 it had increased profit by 30% and became the leading breakfast company, all right, that we saw there. Okay, so let's look at another example, and this one has to do with organizational process assets. Okay, this example is on project management templates, how using standardized templates from organizational process assets streamlined project planning. So let's dive in. Now, there are many examples that we can actually look at in this particular scenario. All right, so let me just quickly go right back into my notes, right, and just show you some of those examples. Now I'm going to drop the link of these notes, all right, on our platform so that you can actually take a look at it, and you can even see that within the notes I also have other links connecting to this information. All right, so you can actually click the links and even do more study for yourself. All right, so let's just jump right into those examples. All right, like I said, there are many examples that we can actually use to buttress the use of organizational process assets in a real life scenario. For instance, Netflix uses organizational process assets to control access to its internal API resources. Chef, a software company that produces automation tools for infrastructure management, uses OPA to provide IAM. IAM is actually an acronym for Identity and Access Management. capabilities in their end user products. Many other companies like Cloudflare, Pinterest, and others use OPA to enforce policies on their platforms like Kubernetes clusters. Okay, so these are examples of companies that actually use organizational process asset. In the case of Netflix, all right, they use it to control access to their internal APIs. Of course, you know that Netflix is a streaming company, all right. Then there are others who use them for different things. So these are just a few examples. Okay, we've also seen Cloudflare, we've also seen Pinterest, all right, who use organizational process assets on their platforms. Okay, so by utilizing standardized templates and processes, these companies have been able to streamline their project planning and increase their potential for success, as you can see. Okay, so it goes to tell us that, hey, using organizational process assets, we can be able to do different things. Remember, organizational process assets are repositories, knowledge bases, all right, templates from past projects and activities that we can actually use to apply to what we are currently doing. Okay, so let's move on and see the key takeaways from these examples. The real world case studies and examples illustrate the tangible impact of enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Understanding these examples enhances your ability to navigate project challenges effectively. Okay, so you have to understand them as a project manager so that you can be able to use them to navigate your project successfully. So congratulations, we've been able to explore real-world case studies and examples that demonstrate the application of EEFs and OPAs in project management. In our next segment, we'll discuss how these concepts can be applied to your own projects. Okay, so keep up the great work on your journey to becoming a skilled project manager. All right, so let's move on to section 7. Here I'm going to guide you through some things that you're going to have to do to apply this knowledge in your own company, in your own organization. So I'm going to be giving you guideposts. Okay, so now let's bridge the gap between theory and practice by discussing how the concepts of enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets can be applied to real projects. And I'm talking about projects within your own organization. Okay, so talking about applying EEFs, now the first thing you're going to have to do is to identify the external factors relevant to your project's industry, market, and regulatory environment. So the project you're handling, whatever project you're handling within your organization, you're going to identify the factors that are relevant, all right, to your project's industry. Okay, and then you're also going to assess how these factors can impact your project planning, execution, and risk management. Okay, you're going to have to think through this. And then lastly, you're going to develop strategies to adapt the enterprise environmental factors surrounding your project industry, like what I've talked about, and mitigate potential challenges. All right, so what strategies are you going to come up with, okay, to adapt the factors, all right, around your project industry? What strategies are you going to adapt, okay, and then to be able to mitigate any potential challenges? All right, so how do you utilize organizational process assets in your own project, in your own organization? So you're going to explore your organization's knowledge repositories and historical project data. All right, so if your organization has a knowledge base or an archive, all right, this organization is just a library, okay, where they have documents of past projects, historical data. So you're going to have to go there and explore what you have there in your organization, and then apply best practices and lessons learned from past projects to inform decision making. So see what you can get from the knowledge repository there. All right, see the information you can get there from past projects and how you can apply those information to current or future projects. And then lastly, leverage standardized processes and templates to streamline project management activities. So what are those standardized processes and templates from the knowledge repository that you can actually use to streamline your project management activities? Okay, so let's see how we can balance enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Now recognize that EEFs and OPAs work in harmony to support project success. You have to understand that. And then tailor your project management approaches based on both external context and internal resources. So this is very important. Okay, so what are the key takeaways from this section? We've learned that applying your understanding of EEFs and OPAs to real projects for effective project management. So I believe you've gotten that understanding. All right, and then strive for balance. Okay, ensure to strive for balance between adapting to external factors and leveraging internal assets. Okay, here we go. So congratulations. You've learned how to translate your knowledge of enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets into practical applications for real projects. Okay, so in our next segment, we're going to test your knowledge with a quiz to reinforce these concepts. So here we go. Keep up the excellent work on your project management journey. So it's time to test your knowledge. Quiz. Here we go. So now it's time for the quiz. Let's put your knowledge to the test with a quick quiz on enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. So that's what you're going to be doing right away. I'm going to leave the link on our platform, okay, so that you just go ahead, click on the link, and then take the quiz. Right, 7 questions to be done within just about 10 minutes, right, to test your knowledge before we move on. Okay, so go ahead, dive in, click the link on the platform, and then go take the quiz. Then when you come back, we'll conclude. Okay, so welcome back. Hope you've taken the quiz, and if you haven't yet, don't worry, you can always jump right into it after now. So let's just do an overview of what we've done so far in week 2 and module 2 of our project management professional training program. Okay, so congratulations, you've been able to gain deep understanding of enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets and their significant impact on project management. So let's quickly review what we've covered and get a sneak peek on what's coming next. So here we go, a recap of week 2. In this module, we have explored the interaction between EEFs and OPAs in project management. We've also learned how real-world case studies and examples demonstrate their application. And then lastly, we discussed how to apply EAFs and OPAs to real projects for effective management. Okay, so coming up next in Module 3, let's just get a sneak peek. In Module 3, which is week 3, we'll focus on the role of the project manager. That's you, the project manager. Alright? So we're going to delve into the sphere of influence of a project manager, the competencies required, and how to perform integration at various levels. So get ready to uncover the core skills that make a successful project manager. So when you discover those skills, then you can begin to work on them and hone them so that you can start applying yourself more strategically and more efficiently and effectively to your project. Okay. Alright, so we've come to the end of the week 2, Module 2. You're making remarkable progress in your project management journey. So keep up the enthusiasm and dedication as we continue to explore essential project management concepts. So like I said, in our next section, which is Module 3, Week 3, we'll dive into the exciting world of the roles of a project manager and his competencies. Okay, so see you in Week 3, Module 3 of our Project Management Professional Training Program. Still remain your anchor man, Chike Onyekachukwu. So I'll see you in our next class. So bye for now. Cheers.